Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast, returning guest, friend of the pod. He's kind enough to invite me on to his little shindig over at SNY occasionally throughout the season, the off season. So, I mean, the least I could do is have him over here to talk a little hoops. The rising star here in the New York sports media, Dexter Henry. How are you, sir?
I'm well, man. I'm doing well. It's exciting times. I love this time of year. Not because it's getting colder, it makes me miss the summer, but I love that basketball's coming back. I love when basketball's right around the corner. I can't wait. I'm
still wearing shorts every day. It takes a lot to get me out of shorts, so it's like
understood.
Yeah, but I did walk out of the house. I think it was yesterday morning. We're recording this on Tuesday night, and I'm like, man, I could be wearing a sweatshirt right now. I'm not going to yet, but I could be.
Yesterday morning was a little chilly. I remember it was just a little chilly. Yeah, it was a little chilly.
But you're right. It's falls in the air, which means basketball's around the corner. NBA basketball's around the corner. I should say congratulations to the New York sports team that advanced in the first round of the playoffs tonight, the New York Liberty 2-0.
Yes.
Nice little first round sweep. They hopefully will go on to do some special things. But yeah, we're here to talk about the other team in New York. I don't count the Nets. Is that okay? Do I have to count the Nets?
Yo, I knew that was a little shot. That was a little shot right there. Oh
no, I the Nets are good. I like the Nets. You know that.
I know that.
I have no love lost against Brooklyn. Not this version of Brooklyn anyway. I think they're a spunky team. No, but so we got to talk a little bit about the Knicks. And it's been pretty sleepy few months. There hasn't really been any news, like even outside of Knicks land. It's like there's nothing really been going on the Dame front or the Harden front. Obviously, you had FIBA, so that was a thing. And I was kind of preparing for it to be another slow couple of weeks, and then kind of out of nowhere yesterday we got some news that I'm very curious to talk to you about, because the news obviously is that Julius Randle has left CAA.
Yep.
And there are times where my reaction to a story or something happening will be very much in line with the masses and consensus. And I could tell pretty quickly that this was not going to be one of them, because I saw this and I was like, oh, okay, what's going on here? This is a big deal. And it is very clear to me, at least based on from what I have seen, that there are many people who are seeming to want to put this in the very much not a big deal category. So I'm just going to start by asking you, when you first saw the news that Randle was leaving CAA, what was your reaction?
My reaction, honestly, so I'm in that category of I don't think this is that much of a big deal.
See, this is why I'm very happy about that, because I'm curious to pick your brain about it. Continue, please.
Yeah, because so first thing I thought was why people leave representation all the time for a myriad of reasons, right? Like this even happens with people like myself who on-air talent, who have an agent or have representation. So I was wondering, was he unhappy? I don't think this necessarily ties as much to the Knicks for him. Let me just say that. We understand Leon Rose. We understand his ties with CAA. There's a bunch of Knicks that are tied to CAA. RJ Barrett is tied to WME, which is interesting. I will say that. Do I think this means a trade is brewing for Julius Randle? Not necessarily. What I do think is interesting about this is he is going to WME. His former agent was with CAA. Maybe he wanted to get back with his agent. Maybe he liked how his agent
business manager. We should clarify his
business manager.
Or all right, I should even clarify further than that. Mm-hmm. Someone who managed his promotional affairs or something that is not going to be his agent now, but who works, as you said, with WMA. Yeah,
right. I don't know what the relationship was, why he'd want to go back there. I'm assuming they had a good relationship. Maybe he wanted to get. I don't know. I don't think it. I'm curious. Before I don't want to even talk anymore. I'm curious to hear what you have to say, because I think Nick. Let me put it like this. This is what I'll say before I let you go. Knicks fans, and you know this, John. You know how the Knicks fans are about Julius Randle. It's been up and down and up and down. And so sometimes I think the fans are looking for something with Julius Randle. And a lot of Knicks fans want to move on from Julius Randle. I understand some of it. I get that. I don't know if I put you in that category, but I'm intrigued to hear what you have to say.
The only category I'm in, other than I do have a liking for Brunson. He's etched out a special place in what's left of like the true fan zone of my heart. Like Brunson pretty much has that one on lockdown. Everybody else to me is expendable. Like if you are can be traded for player X that is going to be in furtherance of the Knicks eventually winning a championship, which is all I want to see. I just want to see them win a championship before I die. It'd be fun to see. It'd be fun to write about. It'd be fun to talk about. It'd be like the whole thing. So like if I could trade Julius Randle somewhere and my team's getting better, absolutely. I've kind of settled into a place with him where I've accepted his strengths. I've accepted his weaknesses. And I think most importantly, I've accepted that this team has placed a pretty good ecosystem around him where I think he's going to be as successful here as he is going to be for any team. So I'm like not in a rush to get rid of him, but it's funny you say that because there's been something going on over the last 36 hours since the news drop where it's like, yes, there are people who said exactly what you said, which is like, okay, well, that obviously Randall's getting traded, which is not my reaction, by the way, for what it's worth.
Okay.
I'll get back to it in a second. And then there has been an onslaught of backlash to that reaction where it's been like, oh, look at all these Knicks fans. They can't appreciate their all-star. Like
I've seen that.
Yes, he does a thing and people immediately make it out to be like he's gone and they're happy about that. And there's obviously, because we are incapable of having a conversation anymore, just as a society.
not on Twitter. Well, now call X. Not on whatever. Twitter. That's not going to happen. Whatever.
Doesn't even matter. Yeah. Be like that. It just devolves into madness. I guess where I stand is like, and I'm literally just going to say what my like this. As best as I could tell, this is my own thought process. I don't think I'm saying anything that isn't true here. Ever since Leon Rose and World Wide West took over the Knicks, like in my mind, they have been even more tied to CAA than they already were. And they were already, as an organization, very tied to CAA. And we don't have to go through the Bargnani of it all and so on and so forth. Really don't need to do that.
I like that.
Yeah. But like, so they were tied. And then ever since then, it's like, you see national media, not only national media members, but also like local beat guys like Ian, like, I hope this was on air. But like, I remember we were joking before an episode of the Putback. So maybe it was off air. Maybe I shouldn't say. I don't think he'll mind. But we were joking about. I was like, oh, we're going to talk all about the Jacob Toppin signing today, and we were joking about that pick. And he said something like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that pick was made, in June of 20. When did they draft Obi Toppin? 2020.
2020. Yeah, 2020.
Yeah, like yeah. I'm pretty sure that Exhibit 10 was signed in June of 2020. It's like, and that's just one example. Now there are other, like, I think everybody kind of has an understanding, or at least in my mind, everybody has an understanding. Like CAA and the Knicks are kind of tied at the hip. Do you think that's nuts that I think that? Because that's how I've thought since they took over, and nothing that has happened since then has dissuaded me from thinking that.
No, it's not nuts. And it's also right. You and I know this. It's not just about sports. It's the way business works, right?
Of course.
People are going to do a lot of ties. I'll tell people this, but a lot of things you see in media goes with who's tied to what agency and what agents have what relationships with what outlets. And this is how certain people get jobs and all this stuff. That does matter. So I want to be very clear. Now, I don't want to say that it doesn't matter. And the Knicks have been very tied to CAA. I think you bringing up Jacob Toppin is a fantastic point towards that, right? I think even when some people saw the move of them drafting him, that was like, okay, Obi's going to stay here. That'll keep him here. They want to keep him happy. Obviously, it didn't work. It didn't work out that way. I think the thing where we need to talk about here, John, is just because Randle switched agencies, does that mean he's going to leave?
So let's get to that part.
Yeah.
So to me, this is a twofold, or actually, no, it's not even a twofold thing. To me, it's like, I think there's, again, a lot of talk like, oh, he switched agencies, that means he's getting traded. I don't see it that way. I am more about literally the first words out of your mouth when I asked you the question. You were like, well, why is he doing that?
Yeah.
That's literally all I'm wondering.
And I think that's, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think that is the question. And that's what's fair to question. The point I was making at the top was that people switch representation for so many different reasons.
And that's where we could end up with this and move on to other stuff. Because I know a lot of people listening to this right now do not want to hear already are past the point where they want to hear about this. Because again, to a lot of people, this is like a non-story. But like, if it is clear from the outside looking in that like there is this like chumminess, right, between the organization and CAA, and there has been, and like, look, I'm gonna at some point I'll talk to Fred Katz, over at The Athletic about this, but like he reported over the summer that there are people like agents and like players that talk about like CAA guys just get treated better, differently. If you like with the Knicks, like it's a thing, like it is a topic of discussion. In whether it's in locker rooms, in, as you say, the business side of it, in agents' offices, like people talk about this. This is a topic in the NBA. So if there is that chumminess, for me, for Julius to take the affirmative step of saying, I am leaving this while I'm still a member of this team, to me, that says that something either happened or he is not happy about something, or like something like I don't see this as something one does without a very specific reason. And I'm sorry. And I'm sorry if you feel this way. I cannot for the life of me think like, oh, someone he used to work with is now at this other agency. He wants to go do him a solid by signing there. That's not enough for me. Yeah.
I want to be clear on that too. That's not I don't think that happened. I don't think that it works. I think somebody, being at another agency, you're not going to do them a solid. It can make you more comfortable
to
go to that place. To your point, John, that still means something, you didn't like something there.
Something was like uncomfortable at a minimum.
At a minimum,
yes.
Right? I'm going to say this to people. This is the agency, the way you got to look at it, it's no different in a way than a trade request, except you have a little bit more power. If you want to fire your agent, you don't like your agent, you don't like your representation anymore, you have a bit of the power to do so of that. But the only reason you'd move on is because you thought possibly two things. One, you did not think the representation that you had was doing right by you, whatever that means. Whether it's you don't think they'll negotiate you a fair deal on your next deal, maybe they weren't getting you the marketing opportunities that you would like. All these things matter to players, right? Secondly, when you are going to leave representation, you're going to do your homework and look at where you think you're going to do the things that you didn't think were being done for you. So that's where I'm with you on this, John. At a minimum, what you're saying, and I think we should be clear for everybody, what you're saying is like, look, something wasn't right for Julius there. I'm not saying it's something nefarious, something bad, something he just didn't like and said, I need to move from here and go here. Now, is that interesting in the context of the Knicks, where there is so much of a CAA tie and there's a lot of players there assigned to CAA? It's interesting. Do I think it affects Julius's standing with the team? I don't know. I can't really speak to that.
I want to be very clear about this. Mm-hmm. Do I think that he's going to step foot in the locker room and like Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart and who else? Isaiah Hartenstein. Who am I forgetting? I think I'm forgetting one player who might be. Maybe that's it. It might just be those three. Right. He's going to like give him the side. No, I don't think that's going to happen at all. I don't think they're going to look. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this. I hope not that his teammate, like those teammates that with CAA are going to look at him differently. I'm again, just more like this is a guy who, and again, this does tie into the Julius thing. And this is where, if you're someone out there who's listening to this, who's like, oh, he's a Julius hater. First of all, I don't think that's a fair characterization. I defended him a lot over the course of this year and apologize for how I was last summer. I was like, get this guy the hell out of here. I was wrong. But I don't know that you could deny that he is he's clearly an emotional guy. He has shown volatility at times, right? So I just wonder if he is upset at something with CAA and with maybe the front office or whatever. I do wonder what impact that will have on how he goes about his business. I'm not saying that he won't still prepare the way he usually does. He's, in impeccable shape coming in every year. So like, I don't question that, but I mean, just from like a mental state, emotional state, whatever, that's all I'm wondering. And down the line, is there a stronger possibility that Julius is not on the team now than there was in my mind at least 3 days ago? Yeah, sure. That door has been opened a little bit wider, and that's it. That's all. That's why I do think, but it's significant.
Because he no longer will have the ties that CAA then has Leon Rose, that let's say something were to go wrong where things can be smoothed over. Just to be clear to everybody, so they know this too, and I know you know this, John. These Leon Rose now in upper management, all these front offices, they have relationships with tons of different agencies. Does it help when you got more players that have a tie to an agency that you do? Of course it helps, because when you need to get in touch with the agent when something's wrong, you're going to take that phone call a little bit quicker. You're going to answer back a little bit quicker, right? Those are some of the benefits to where players that might be with CAA and have ties to Leon Rose are just going to be different. And that's just how it goes. This is how these things go. I do think it opens up the door a little bit more. I don't think that means Julius Randle's going to get traded. Definitively is going to get traded. No. Now that he's with WME, I've seen some of this from Knicks fans. Oh, they're trying to get him out the door. No, that's not how it works, and they're not doing that.
And we should say, if there's been another NBA agent over the last 2 decades, maybe not go 2 decades, but like at least over the last 10 years or so, that has had ties with the Knicks other than CAA, it's been Bill Duffy, who WME acquire.
Yep.
I don't want to say you can't acquire a person. You know what I mean? Who he became part of WME back in March. He heads up their basketball. Like he represented Joakim Noah, who the Knicks, Phil Jackson gave, whatever it was, $72 million. And obviously he represents RJ Barrett, who, for as much as we want to talk about, was almost traded last summer. He's still on the team, paid him $100 million, the whole thing. So like there's clearly a good relationship with Duffy. Yep. So yeah, no, I think you said it's spot on. But yeah, it's not nothing to me. That's all. That's all I guess is all. But that's my position. It's not nothing. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm a little hard. I think at the beginning I said I was kind of meh on the news, right? I don't something. The point we're agreeing on and what we're saying, just to be clear again for everybody, is nobody leaves their representation if everything is wonderful. That's it.
And that means their relationship with either their agent directly or the actual agency. But most of the times it's about your direct relationship with your agent. So nobody just says, I'm out. Nobody's just like, hey, you know what, John? I want to try this other agency just because. Nobody does that, right? Like, that just doesn't happen.
Just because it's like, it's a major shift, It's like, it's, and especially, by the way, since he's, talk about a guy who's talked up his agent. He's talked up Aaron Mintz over the years as like really being there for him during like tough times and this and that. So, but whatever. I think that I don't have anything else to say on this. I'm going to wait and see if there anything else comes of it. But we'll see. I did think there was a fun jumping off point because we could, there's nothing going on. And so I'm asking you, or I asked you, I texted you earlier today. I was like, look at your crystal ball. I'm going to try to look at mine. This is a storyline that's dominating right now. I'm sure it'll go away. But what storylines do we think? It's funny. I was thinking of the emails that you sent me before I come on, with you to do our little things. Like, here are the 3 topics we're going to hit today. Like, what do you think the storylines are that are going to dominate this next season? Because I got to tell you, it's a weird place to be right now. We're looking, putting this Randle thing aside, looking ahead to this team in this year. Not that they're boring, but like nothing jumps out at me like as, oh, this is definitely going to be a thing that we're going to come back to a lot, or like this is going to be. So give me like one thing that you think sitting here today in the middle of September is going to be a talking point consistently throughout this year.
I think one of the things that's going to be a talking point among Knicks fans for sure is, has this offense evolved? Has Thibodeau's offense evolved? You and I have talked about this on camera. We talked about this off camera.
Off camera, yeah.
We've texted about it. Listen, and I've made it clear how I feel about it watching the Knicks. The offense sometimes looks very stagnant. We saw some of that in the playoffs.
Sure.
Is it going to evolve? Is it going to be more free flowing? Are we going to get some more ball movement? Are we going to see some more pin down actions for players like Quentin Grimes in particular? He's a player I'm looking at. When you and CP did the episode, that was a question I threw at you guys, which was it was a long question, and I apologize. I had
that was a good question, though.
But I was talking about the schedule, and I also talked about guys like Grimes and Barrett stepping up. But I think a lot of that is tied into, how does this offense evolve? This offense has been kind of boring and vanilla. John, you know this too. You know this.
Vanilla can taste very good, though, Dexter.
I'm a fan of vanilla. I should say that.
One of my daughters, it's my older daughter, vanilla is her favorite flavor of ice cream. I am convinced that means she's not mine, because I'm chocolate, but that's me.
There you go. My daughter's she loves strawberry. She can have that all day. Yeah, she loves strawberry.
How old is your daughter?
She's 7.
Mine is 7 too. I forgot our daughters were, or she's about to be 7. She could be 7 in a couple of days. I've never heard of a kid that strawberry is their favorite flavor. That's amazing.
Yeah, she loves strawberry. She loves some strawberry, man. She loves some strawberry. Yeah. So she loves strawberry. Anyway, vanilla is a good flavor. Back to that. But the offense has been bland. Okay. Sure. Let's say that. It's not been exciting. It's not inspiring. Does it help? And I think fans saw this in the playoffs, that you got a guy like Jalen Brunson, who, I'm with you, is the only untouchable on this team, a guy that has proven he can get it done in the playoffs, big time player, all that stuff. Fine. I thought the Knicks played way too much ISO ball. I think they have to be able to have other ways to score than that. And they have to, let other guys create as well, too. Now, can that be RJ? Can that be Grimes if he gets a little bit more opportunities? I think the thing is, with Tibbs, we just haven't seen. I'm gonna throw a question back at you. Sure. Have we really seen the offense evolve, John, since 2 years ago? It's been better because they don't have Elfrid Payton starting at point guard, and that was terrible for the offense. But has the offense really evolved?
I think no, it hasn't. It's been 3 years. Year 1 was Julius is the sun, and everybody orbits around Julius, and that's how we're going to go about our business. I feel like with year 2, there was an attempt at evolution, and it just never got off the ground, and it crashed and burned before anything ever even started to go right. And then by the end of the year, it was the kids were playing more and it was fun, but I wouldn't call that an evolution. And then last year, it was kind of the same offense as 2 years ago, the first Thibodeau season, except they added a guy who, I know he wasn't an all-star, but an all-star caliber point guard. Yep. So no, to answer your question, I don't think it has. Where I struggle with is and this is tough because I always am going to look for every excuse to defend Tom Thibodeau. Aware of that, but at the same time, I do feel like something that is a good coaching quality is to lean into the strengths of your best players. And who are the Knicks' best players? Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, and then I don't know if you want to go RJ Barrett or Emmanuel quickly after that. And Jalen and Julius, undoubtedly, their strengths are give me the ball and let me create, right? That's what they do best. I even think we saw it even kind of play out this summer with FIBA with the difference between Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton. I don't want to get into a whole discussion about who's the better player, because it's a silly discussion because they're just different players. But Brunson's strengths are, I'm going to take the ball, I'm going to work it, and then I'm either going to get a shot I feel comfortable with, or someone's going to collapse and I'm going to kick it out to a 3-point shooter. And Julius is in a weird, kind of the same way, except he's he's much bigger. How much are those two players, as your two best offensive players, capable of being a part of an offense that has a little bit more, I'll say, nuance to it? The thing that's interesting to me, and then I'll curious what you think about this, is they really have done a nice job of surrounding those two guys with players who I think are very capable of playing in a more, whatever, again, I'll use the word nuance offense. They just got DiVincenzo from Golden State. Golden State's been first in the league in assist rate for 7 out of the last 9 years. He functioned great there. I think Josh Hart's that kind of player. I think Emmanuel Quickley is that sort of player that could function in a more nuanced offense. Isaiah Hartenstein, obviously, we saw him with the Clippers, before he came to the Knicks. He was able to do that. And Quentin Grimes, you mentioned great point mentioning Quentin Grimes. I think Quentin Grimes, you plop him into Golden State, he could function great in that sort of offense. So there are pieces here that can be that, but I don't know. Again, your top guys are your top guy, and I think RJ, by the way, I think he falls a little bit in the middle, but I think he more leans to like more ISO. But I don't know.
Yeah, and then for me on that point, he's the other major storyline to me for the Knicks this season. And
RJ.
the Knicks, RJ, yeah. The Knicks fans are going to be on this, talking to Knicks fans, and Knicks fans coming and talking to me. It's all, what do you think RJ is going to be? Is RJ consistent? Now, I don't know if we've talked about this. Maybe we have, John. I think there's a lot to like. Actually, you and I did talk about this. I remember one of the last couple of videos we did in the playoffs. I think there was a lot to like about what RJ did in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
There are some Knicks fans out there that are way too hard on RJ. I need to see more from him. Listen, and I'll say this. I think you made this point too. If you get it done in the playoffs, that means a lot to me. You're getting it done when it matters. 7 of the 11 playoffs games, this guy was good. Probably the best stretch we saw from him as a Knick, right? Has he been inconsistent in the regular season?
8 out of 11.
8 of 11, yeah. I'm probably shorting him.
You were shorting him.
I can't. We cannot short the man.
We cannot short the man.
We can't do that. 8 out of 11 games. And there's fans saying, well, I need to see this in the regular season. I mean, honestly, guys, I'll say this to Knicks fans out. If you feel that way, what do you care if let's say he has an inconsistent regular season and he's consistent in the regular season, the Knicks win? Who gives a damn? Who cares? Like, who absolutely cares at that point? The man got it done when it counts. And let's also be clear about this. He was terrible with a capital T the first 2 games against Cleveland. Sure. Terrible, right? He bounced back. You got to give the man credit for that. He bounced back there and bounced back at home, where I thought he might have got booed off the court. He did not get booed off the court. He bounced back. I do think he needs to build on that. So that's the point of what I'm saying. Does he need to build on this? Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Is the offense equipped for him to build on that though, John? Well,
so now you're getting to one of my storylines, and maybe it's just because. So it's just funny how you phrase that. Is the offense built for him, or is the offense equipped for him to do, equipped for him to do that? Something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about coming off of last year in the playoffs, especially, and like seeing how the offense just kind of went up in a puff of smoke, is like, okay, so how do you functionally improve this offense without changing major pieces? And spoiler alert, I think at some point they are going to change a major piece or two, and we know, like the star trade storyline that goes without saying, that's going to dominate every year until they actually do trade for a star, because Jalen, Julius, and RJ are their nominal big 3, and like, in terms of scoring, like RJ almost averaged 20 points a game last year. Like, so clearly he was the third member of the big 3, even though, and this, now I'm getting to one of my things, you could very easily argue, and I think to me, it's obvious, RJ was not their third best player during the regular season last year. Their third best player during the regular season last year was Emmanuel Quickley. And you will even get some people who will be like, Emmanuel Quickley was like their second best player. I mean, I'm sure there's someone listening to this like, why are you shortchanging Emmanuel Quickley, the best player on the Knicks last year? I guarantee you there are people out there who think that, right? And look, the advanced numbers, absolutely loved him. His impact was like unquestionable. He was the elixir to every bad lineup. He was awesome. I think he was their third best player. So I don't, not that I think a storyline is necessarily going to be like pitting the two of them against one another, but I feel like we are coming to a head in terms of they're going to make a big trade at some point, right? or at least they're going to try their damnedest to. I find it very hard to believe that at least one of those two, RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley, is not going to be involved in that trade. So, like, who is the best fit for the Knicks moving forward? And I mean, again, it's something I'm going to be writing about for the newsletter in like a week or two, but I mean, I even think, and this will never happen, to be very clear. Like, is there a version of this team where the minutes distribution maybe stays the same? Guys are still playing roughly the same amount of minutes, but like, and I'm not the first person to bring this up. People have brought this up to me for years, and I'm like, you're crazy. It's never going to happen. And I don't think it's ever going to happen. But where Immanuel Quickley is just starting two guard and RJ Barrett's coming off the bench. Like, again, it'll never happen. But like, does that version of at least the Knicks offense, we talk about clunky offense. Does that version of the Knicks offense make more sense? The defense probably makes more sense because Immanuel Quickley's a great defender, but like, that's something I'm looking at and paying attention to because I do think that there are like camps, right? There's the RJ camp and there's the Immanuel Quickley camp in terms of like, who is the more important young player, right? Moving forward, because they are both still young.
That's good. I do think that'll be a major storyline.
You do? Okay. I'm not crazy.
I do not. You're not crazy on that because it's funny. And there's a group chat I'm in with a couple of friends who are Knicks fans, and one of the guys who watches your show, he'll know this one I'm talking about him. He'll know exactly who he is.
Thank you.
One of the guys, one of the guys, he's very much a start IQ over RJ. He's also an RJ.
Wait, Andrew's saying you got to shout him out. I got to
shout it out. Fred. Shout out to my guy, Fred.
Shout out to Fred.
Shout out to Fred, who's in my group chat with one of my mentees, Greg. I'll shout out Fred and Greg. I know they watch the show, so shout out to them. Subscribe,
rate, and review.
Yes, subscribe, rate, and review. Do that. Support Knicks Film School. Always. I always say that.
You do.
I think that's definitely going to be a talking point for people this season, right? And I don't even know where I really stand. Like, I'm higher on RJ than some people are. I think RJ's a good player. I think he's got to figure some other stuff out. I think people want him to be. I think people always have this lens of being like, he's not Ja, he's not Zion, and I don't think that's necessarily fair to compare him that way, right? Like, I don't think that's necessarily fair to compare him that way. I think we need it. Can he be the best version of himself? I still think there's a way he can do that. I think he showed some of that in the playoffs. I think there's good things to his game. It's about consistency, which is like for a lot of young people. The other problem is, and you know this, John, and I know this, born and raised New Yorker, grew up a Knicks fan. Nobody is damn patient. Nobody's patient at all. Everybody wants tomorrow yesterday, right? Everybody wants tomorrow.
Yeah.
This is a big year for RJ. This is a big year. It
is a big year. The patience level of Knicks fans I find to be a fascinating topic because I do think to a certain extent you are correct that like Knicks fans, for as much as we talk about ourselves, it's like, oh, we'll be patient if it's something worth being patient for. It's like by definition, patience means you are not seeing the thing that you want right away. Like someone might, we were patient with Immanuel Quickley, right? You didn't really have to be patient with Immanuel Quickley because almost from day one, he stepped on the court and like, oh, this guy very clearly does all the things that lead to it. Patience is when you're watching a guy really fumble his way through it and like the bad is bad, right? And the signs aren't as clear as you would like them to be. That's patience. And then it's about just how long until your patience runs out, which your mileage may vary.
Yeah. So, and I think the other point you made that's really good, right, with this is that you're right. Listen, it's not breaking any news. We know the Knicks are set up to make a trade.
Yes.
It's about who they trade for and if it's the right piece to put next to Jalen Brunson. That is definitely the thing. And you're also right that I think one of the two guys are definitely going. It's going to be RJ or Immanuel Quickley. Both will not be here. That's just not going to happen. And it's not going to happen. If they're going to get anybody good, one of those two guys are going. No doubt about that. Who do you keep? I don't know. But I'll tell you what, guys, the first couple of months of the season to the storyline that John is bringing up is going to have a lot to determine that. I think who and how they play. Also, you have to remember, Immanuel Quickley's got a potential contract extension looming. Are the Knicks going to pay him? Are they not going to pay him? Are they going to invest? Do they want the flexibility?
Do you think they pay him before the season starts?
Yeah, because that's the thing. I think they do. I think they do pay him before the season starts. I have no inside information on that, but I think they do pay him before the season starts.
You know what my inside information is? Mm-hmm. I read Ian Begley. And Ian Begley has said multiple times, it reported that he would be surprised if an extension does not get done. So you know what? If Ian Begley would be surprised if an extension doesn't get done, I'm going to be surprised if an extension
I'll say many times, as long as I've known Ian, and we go way back to starting our journalism careers, man, with his stuff around the Knicks, when Ian even tells me, also with the reporting, that he would be surprised about that. I'm saying trust Ian Begley. Sorry, Ian, that's a lot of pressure on you, my guy, but we're saying trust Ian Begley. That's all it is.
No, I think they get it done. I think at the end of the day, his annual number will be, I think it'll come in at a little bit less than RJ, but to me, it's not going to, like, the money is not going to be the thing that decides whether one guy stays or one guy goes. I really do think it is going to be, to a certain extent, about fit with the Knicks moving forward, but also probably to a larger extent, what another team views one of those guys as. Like, what are they in our environment, like away from,
right?
Like, and that's why it's a tough thing it is really a very layered kind of complex conversation. Because, like, do you look at RJ as the guy who can flourish more if he's out of, the shadow of Jalen Brunson or out of the shadow of Julius Randle, or Emmanuel Quickley as the guy who, like, put him as a starting point guard on a team with, like, next to, I'm just throwing out like Luka Doncic or Kawhi. Well, Kawhi's not a great example because he doesn't play games anymore, but like someone like that, like a big wing, like Jason Tatum, right? A big wing who, like, kind of runs the offense, but also still needs a point guard next to him. Like, basically put him in like the Marcus Smart role, right? And let him do that. Let him be the nominal starting point guard, but he doesn't have to, like, create offense all the time. Like, what would he look like in that role? And I think that's a really interesting conversation. And I wonder, what another team might think. I have another storyline. I almost don't want to say it out loud because I'm afraid.
I'm here for the storylines, man. Because what's funny? We're talking about it now, and then 2 months from now, I'm going to be like, John, you got to come on with me. We're going to be talking about these same storylines. So it'll be that. Okay. Here we go. If you come to New York and is it ever going to be in this city? Is it ever going to be all positive in terms of how people view you? Who's the last athlete that had even like an 85% approval rating? New York athlete, big time star New York athlete. This is a great question. Now, the last athlete that I would say had an 85% or over approval rating, he just got injured for the season. Sorry, Andrew, Claudio. That would be Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly, because he didn't play any games.
You see, he played 4 snaps, and that's it. His approval rating was high. It's still high. You talking about
Jeter had a pretty high approval rating, but like, even
are we talking about somebody who's traded to New York or somebody who's drafted to New York?
Any prominent, let's call star athlete that put on, whether it's the pinstripes, whether it's Knicks uniform, whether it's Giants, Jets, anything, like Andrew's digging into the recesses of his brain. Does he have an obvious answer?
Got to answer. Come on.
So Aaron Judge did what last season?
I mean, he's I don't know anybody who dislikes Aaron Judge.
So he has a pretty universally high approval rating.
I don't know a Yankee fan that doesn't like Aaron. Like, if you don't like Aaron Judge, you don't root for the Yankees.
Okay. Maybe that's an unfair example because did Aaron Judge, like, he's like, when he's on the field, he's producing MVP level production, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe we should go a step below that. Like, unless you are clearly like the best player or one of the 5 best players in the sport when you are healthy, like, I'm thinking more of like like the guys on the Knicks currently, like Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson, guys who are not at that level. It feels like New York is a place where there will be people who love you, and then there will be people giving an alternative opinion.
Is there anybody that dislikes Jalen Brunson? I haven't met that person.
And that's where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
The approval rating was pretty close to 100 last season.
Pretty cool.
Everybody loved him. I wonder if we're going to start to get some backlash. And I wonder if people are going to be like, he doesn't pass enough. He's not a true point guard. He looks to shoot too much. The defense is so bad in large part because of him. Where are we going if he's one of our top 2 players? I wonder, because it was found money, Dexter. It was found money. They got this guy who's like a max level player for not a max contract. They signed him away from a team that should have never let him go. And the whole season was about gloating over the fact that, hey, we got this guy. He's ours. He's the point guard that's been promised since Clyde. I just wonder if they struggle at any point, is there going to be a little backlash? That's why I said I don't want to say it out loud.
No, they will, because fans are going to be fans, and that's going to happen.
That's my point.
So that's like it's going to happen. Like, people are going to do that. Those people are ridiculous. I'll say that they're ridiculous, and here's why I'm going to say they're ridiculous. You mentioned some guys before, and Andrew just mentioned Aaron Judge, which he's completely right about. Right? Completely right about. And I'm saying this, and I hope this isn't crazy for me to say this. And I might have said this to you before. I've said this to some of my friends and other people too. Jalen Brunson gives me and I am not a Yankees fan, didn't grow up a Yankees fan, but Jalen Brunson gives me the vibes of Jeter. Somebody that can handle New York, can handle the pressure as a primetime player. We haven't seen here in New York. He's unflappable. He's not fazed by any. So here's what I'm saying. Even if that criticism comes from those Knicks fans who will do that, and again, they're wrong and ridiculous, he will still rise above that. He will be fine. That man showed me last year in the playoffs he can do it. I trust him. I'm not saying he's a perfect star, right? I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying he's got that it factor, that moxie, that I hate even sometimes using all these cliche words that we do around sports, but he's got that for me. He's a leader. And completely. I think when you can lead and you can step up, I think that matters. That doesn't mean the Knicks won't trade and bring in somebody that's actually more talented than Jalen Brunson. They probably will. They need to. Yeah. They need to, right? Like, they need to, John.
They have to.
But he is, listen, this is why I'm making the point about Jeter. There are people in the league that were more talented than Jeter. But he was that leader for the Yankees. Yep. He's that guy you trusted to come up in the clutch. I know it's one season, but that's the vibe I get about Jalen Brunson. And I think Knicks fans should feel good about that, because you should ask yourself, Knicks fans, when's the last time you had that playing at the Garden? When?
I don't want to make it like I was building a straw man there, because again, that has to be clear. Like, if there are criticisms that exist right now of Jalen Brunson, they're like a very small, very, 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 very small minority. And I hope this doesn't happen. I feel like it's again, New York sports, like you mentioned Jeter got booed, like he was struggling at the time, but Derek Jeter got booed,
He went 0 for 30, right? He got booed, right? Like,
that's right, yeah.
But you know what? Did you ever feel like Derek Jeter was not going to be able to handle that? No. That, for me, I didn't feel like he would not be able to rise above that or handle it.
The only athletes that I've ever watched that gave me a better, like a safer feel, safer is a wrong word, but like a feeling like this guy's if he could be 0 for 50, he's going to come through in the clutch. The only two athletes who ever gave me a stronger feeling were Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods. Now, that may seem blasphemous because those are arguably the two predominant athletes of the last, 30, 40 years. But like, that's how if you watched Jeter every day, that's how you felt about him, right? Yep. Like you just felt he was going to come through. And Jalen Brunson, there was a sense of security by the end of last season. Like, it's okay. Ball in Jalen Brunson's hands. We're going to be fine. We're going to figure out a way to close out this game. Which is why I think there was all the good juju going into, FIBA and Team USA. And that's why I feel badly it didn't work out so well. And I don't put that on Brunson. I just think, like, look, that team, they got beat, because they were the best team. But I'm all in on Jalen Brunson.
And I think Knicks fans should be too. If you're not,
I think people,
you know what is it? If you're the person, if you're nitpicking, you're doing all that, you're probably one of those people that wanted Cam high. If you wanted Cam Reddish to be starting, I remember y'all last year. I remember y'all.
They're still out there, Dex.
Oh my God,
they're very much out there. They're like, where is he now? He's in LA.
He's in LA. And you know what? Cam's gonna have one good game in LA. You're gonna see this on social media, and people are gonna be posting the video and the highlights and numbers and be like, shouldn't have traded him. Even though they got Josh Hart, shouldn't have traded him.
Let's end with that. That's gonna be the last storyline. And you say with Cam, I'm sure if Cam has a nice game for LA, yes, we're gonna get that.
Yes.
I actually think there's a chance that if the Knicks are winning at a decent enough clip, I don't think people are gonna. It'll get overshadowed, but Obi Toppin is going to look good in Indiana, and I'm not a big. I've gone on record. I think Obi's a nice role player. I don't think like the Knicks are gonna miss him. I think he's a extraordinarily situationally dependent player in terms of like how he's going to be best used, and in terms of like how he's going to impact winning. But guess what? There just so happened to be a team out there with the perfect situation, and the Knicks traded him to that team, and he's going to look good. And I think it's going to be like, could you imagine if there's a night where like Julius Randle goes like 4 for 20 and like the Knicks lose by a few points, and like Obi goes like goes for 20 points on like 7 of 8 shooting with like a handful of lob dunks from Halliburton. Like the reactions on that night, it's gonna be wild.
Andrew just said, what happens if that happens in the same game, which would be disastrous, right?
Oh, but my Lord.
But see, John, this is why I can always talk to you, and I love talking to fans and other media members who can talk with nuance.
I appreciate that.
I really appreciate that, right? And this is why I love talking to you about the Knicks, because there's nuance to it. You just said something that was perfect about that. Obi Toppin got traded to a perfect situation. I do agree he's going to look good in Indiana next to Halliburton. He's going to be able to run the floor.
Yep.
I think he's going to look good. He's going to play to a lot of his strengths. When that happens, and it may happen in the same game, and Andrew's right, the doomsday scenario in that situation with the same game, it doesn't mean the Knicks failed. It doesn't mean it's a bad trade.
Yeah.
He was not going to play here over Julius Randle. So the Knicks, I don't know how much, we talked about this before, I don't know how much better they were going to get than the 2 second-round picks. It's a sunk cost. It is what it is.
Can we, if we assume that the front office is filled with rational actors, which I think now they are. I think they are. Now, yes, now they are. And if we assume that like they have working telephones and like are not going to make a trade for offer X when offer Y, which is better, is sitting out there from another team, this is the best that anyone's willing to give, because other teams, like I think, looked at Obi and was like, okay, interesting player, nice player, might work out. But like, is he going to work out here? Is it worth our investment of, whatever other draft assets to then, okay, maybe it looks good, we have to pay him in a year. Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot going on there. They got the best offer they could get because they made that trade. If there was a better offer, they would have traded him somewhere else, Right.
And people, you saw this too after that went down earlier summer. Oh, the Knicks could have got a first round pick. No, they couldn't. Anybody they would have. Anybody I've talked to has told me that. And you know what? The Knicks were trading from a position just because of what the situation was of weakness. If the Knicks asked for a first round pick, do you know what all these other teams, including Indiana, were saying? Well, if he's that good, why don't you guys play him? That's what every team would have said to them. And it didn't happen. And and they got what they got, and it's okay. And some nights, and I love that you brought this up as a storyline, because it's going to happen. This is inevitable. You can lock it down. It's going to happen. And like Andrew said, it might happen in the same game. Some nights, Obi Toppin's going to look really good. That doesn't mean the Knicks failed on that situation. It doesn't mean it's a bad trade. It is what it is. The Knicks are fine. I think the Knicks had a fine offseason. I don't know where you are on wins. I can't wait till I have you on in a couple of weeks, and I got to talk to you about something new. that's coming up that I'd definitely like you to be a part of.
Okay.
But I think they're going to be a good team. I've said 50 wins for them this year. I think they're going to win 50 games. They're going to be a good team.
I haven't made a prediction yet. I'm not going to make one now. I've done this the last few years because it's like, this is a problem when you have a newsletter, when you have podcasts, when you like go on other people's shows. It's like, I think the last couple of years I've made, it's like
4 different predictions.
Yeah. It's like I'm at the roulette table. Like, let me put a chip on 15. Let me get, the corners, at the top left. I haven't settled on one yet. I don't think I'm going to be predicting that they're going to win 50 games. I think something a little bit below that. Not too much. I don't think.
I thought you were going to go crazy and say you're going to say, I'm not predicting 50. I'm predicting 55. I thought you were going to do that.
Hashtag 53 wins. No, it's I don't know. You know what it is? They start out with, I think they do have a tough slate to start out. Really like the first third of the season is challenging. And then middle of the schedule, there's some places where they could make up ground if they do struggle out of the gate. I don't know. I think last year they were a team that was, I would argue that they were a team that was greater than the sum of its parts. Can they be that again? We'll see. I mean, it's going to come down to a lot of the guys we talked about. So, we look forward to seeing what they do.
Look forward to it.
And I look forward to you covering them, and as well as all of the other stuff that you do. So I guess before we go, let folks at home know, what are you up to? Where can we see you this year? I know you got your hands in a lot of things.
Got my hands in a lot of things. You can catch me on New York Post Sports YouTube channel, as well as SNY, doing some stuff there. Also, I do updates on WFAN and CBS Sports Radio. But this is actually the first place I'm going to talk about this. We at the New York Post SNY, we got a little basketball show coming, a little weekly basketball show.
That's
where
exciting.
You're going to see myself. You'll see some more details about that in a couple of weeks. We're going to have the great insiders and content creators like John will be a guest. You'll see people from other Knicks content creators on there. There'll obviously be Ian Begley, a lot of different people will be coming on as guests, but we're going to talk New York hoops. So yeah, John, this is the first time I'm mentioning this publicly. So you're going to be, as you are regularly when you come on me with other news stuff. I'd love for you to come on for this, and I knew you were going to be a part of it. So it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. My
goal for this year is to make it into one of the studios that you record at just once. That's my goal. So that's also another thing that I've been meaning to text you about. And I feel bad because this summer you and I were supposed to get up and have some food, and we didn't get this done. We both had respectively crazy summer, so we did forgive ourselves. So that's still going to happen. But the studio thing, that's coming really soon. As soon as we're done recording, I'll talk to you about that. It's going to be a couple of opportunities with that. You said at least once. It's going to happen multiple times. So, listen, man, just letting you know. I'm going to be there taking selfies of myself. Like, hey, a big deal now. And Andrew, I gotta let Andrew know. Andrew's invited too, because and I want to say this. I said this last time. I love all the work you guys do. I'm big fans. I'm always a big fan of supporting independent media. Everybody who knows me knows I'm about that. That's why I'll support you guys. All the fans, please like, subscribe, do all that stuff for Knicks Film School, KFS. They do a great job. And that's why I have you guys on. It's media has to support other media. Yes. That's important. And I think the more we keep doing that, the more we grow. So it's not about one person being better or that. I loved what you and CP did. I love seeing that. Like that. That's always fun. I was like, that's dope. I love that you guys are doing that. So we just have to do the same. And more details to come on that basketball show. But yeah, Andrew, you're going to be part of it too. Can't wait. Yeah. But I'm looking to have all the New York content creators that are out there doing good stuff with basketball. We're looking for you. So I mean, you guys part of it. Andrew's football team doesn't exist anymore, so he might as well talk about basketball. I think that's only fair. The reason I have to go, Dexter, is because if John wants to take a selfie, someone has to show him how to turn the camera around on his phone. Oh, wow. Go ahead. Take more shots at my football team. Wow. Listen, I didn't notice about Andrew that if you come for him, he is definitely going to fire back. I didn't know that at all whatsoever. Andrew's always locked and loaded. It's been a rough week and a half, Dexter. Okay. Andrew. I had the nerve to say Super Bowl, and I know Giant fans and other football fans are tired of me saying it. Okay. You weren't there. You weren't in the building. You didn't feel the feels that I felt. Okay. And now you're not stuck watching Zach Wilson
forever.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying like for the rest of the season. I'm convinced just he's going to be around forever.
But Andrew, yes. I say this with all love and seriousness.
Oh, goodness.
We talked about this before we started work.
Hit me.
You had to know the pain was coming. You knew the pain was coming. You knew what was coming.
And I said this last week. I did try to approach with as much hesitation.
Nah, you didn't. You said
no, you didn't. No, I did.
At one point, you jumped off the ledge.
Okay, what was the key word of the sentence I just said? Try.
You try.
Okay.
Try.
Any therapist you go to is like, all right, you don't need to succeed. You just need to try. That's half the battle. And then I jumped out the window. And guess what? I popped my Achilles 4 snaps into the game. Okay.
Popped your Achilles. You were like that movie you love, The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson at the beginning of
the other guy.
Yeah,
the other guy.
Landed face flat in the window, on the ground, on the concrete.
Oh man! All right. Well, this was
aim
fun.
for the bushes.
Dexter Henry, you are the man.
Thank you, guys.
You talk us up, man. I appreciate what you do, and seriously, always seeing you. You hustle, man. You are always out there.
I'm always hustling, but you guys are hustling too. People need to know that it takes a lot of work to do what you guys are doing, and I think people sometimes don't know that. You know, the work Andrew does, the work you do, writing and putting these shows and booking guests, and you know, I watch you guys all the time, especially after games, and it's a lot of work that we all got to hustle, but it's beautiful when we make good content together.
Yes.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
Exactly. Especially when there's so much bad content out there.
Well, you know what's funny? I don't mean to belabor this longer, but something No. The thing I say to people all the time is that point you made, J-Mac. People think it's so easy. You know, I think sometimes what you guys do and what some other Knicks content creators do, people are like, oh man, I could do that. Anybody can have a show. This is true.
This is true.
That doesn't mean everybody can do it well. And I think it takes a lot of work and putting work into your craft. So I respect the content creators that are doing it at a high level.
I just want to be clear. Like I'm talking more about. There's a lot of places out there who are like there's more clickbait out there than ever who are just trying.
Oh well, that too. Oh yeah,
that's what I was more referring to.
Nuance. They're not looking for nuance. They're not putting nuance into. That happens with video and with writing as well too. Yeah, you're right about that.
No, and I'd like to think if not, listen, love us, hate us, and you fall into this category too. Like. At least I'd like to think everybody who consumes what we do knows that we're doing like it's genuine. Like we're putting in the time to make sure it's like okay, these are reasoned opinions. It's an opinion, right? But might not agree with it, but we're putting it out there. Okay, enough. It's past 11 o'clock as we're recording this. So Dex, you have stuff to do. I'm sure, like maybe sleep. And yeah, man, we'll talk throughout the year, man. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I'll see both you guys soon. Appreciate y'all.